Hello vinyl community people, it's Mike NGK Boston back with another video. Today just going to do basically, the weather's been so lousy as you've heard me whining about in most of my videos all summer. Rains every weekend. Of course, we're rounding out, this is kind of the last weekend of summer because it's Labor Day weekend and all that. So it's funny, I heard the weather forecast yesterday on my commute, and the guy was like, yes, this is the best weather for 4-day stretch we've had since Memorial Day, which of course is the holiday in late May. Longest stretch of weather over a weekend without rain. So that's very nice. So we're not doing a whole lot, just laying low, but we're going to get out and about. And I got out for a nice run this morning and didn't get rained on. So there's that. So the point of the weather forecast also is that I don't do a lot of record shopping as a rule in the summer months. But because it was raining a lot, here's Colton. I seem to be taking a page out of Steve Carlson's book with the cat in the videos, but he just can't stop it. This is Colton. Say hi to everybody, Colton. He's waving yes, hello. Anyway, so this Saturdays where it was raining, I'm like, well, I'm just going to go and buy some records. So that said, this is big. Geez, the cat's shedding around here. I went out a few Saturdays in August, and this is kind of a cumulative pile of stuff that I picked up over those Saturdays, and I actually got some pretty good stuff on a couple of rainy Saturdays, so all was not lost, right? Anyway, yeah, making lemonade out of lemons, as the saying goes. And this store that I go to, another shout out to my friend JT over at JT's Record Room. He goes to this guy's place called Bill's Garage. This is a brick and mortar store I go to in my town out here, Metro West section of Boston, but nothing's priced, and you just you got to haggle with the owner, this crazy old lady, and just work out a price. Here he is again. All right, cool. If you can just sit there. So anyway, I'm going to kick it off here. So anyway, yeah, like I was saying, it's just nothing's priced. You come up with your pile and you kind of negotiate and you take it from there, right? So what do we got here? Manfred Mann's second album from 1972. And again, this is Glorified, Magnified, nice gatefold sleeve. So I only had Nightingales and Bombers, which was their 7th release. I really like that. This is a little different. This is kind of like if it's like King Crimson in reverse, if that makes sense. It's got some sort of prog rock edges to it. It's going to take a few listens. I'm going to just have to decide if I maybe even get rid of this one. I don't know. First listen, I wasn't really sold on it. But again, that's Manfred Mann's Earth Band, Glorified, Magnified. All right, here we have the Darling Buds, a little punk pop for you from 1988. Of course, they're from England. The name of this release called Pop Said. It all kind of plays the same. Kind of like if you knew a band called Velocity Girl, they're kind of similar to that. And with shades of Debbie Harry and Blondie thrown in. Of course, there's the lead singer right there. She's a bit of a looker, isn't she? So yeah, it all kind of plays out the same. I think there's around 10 tracks on this one. Burst was a single from this, which is pretty good. The opening track is actually quite good, Hit the Ground. So I've only listened through this once. I knew of this band at the time. I would have been in university. I would have considered this a little too poppy, but actually I first listened to this now, maybe because I'm old. It sounds good, and I'm going to keep this one. Yeah, and it's Pop Said, the Darling Buds, the name of that band. We got here, we got some Johnny Winter. I was really happy to find a clean copy of this. I've been looking for it. It's been on my want list forever. I got this for $5. I don't usually talk about the price of things, but that's an exceptional deal. And this is in excellent condition. I mean, look at that, you know, and it's an original too. I already looked it up on Discogs. There's a little wear on the inside, but yeah. So there you can see there's Johnny down in front, and his brother Edgar Winter also plays on this album too. So yeah, and ironically, Tommy Shannon, there he is right there, plays bass. So little trivia, if you don't know who Tommy Shannon is, he was one of the guys with Chris Layton on drums. It was Tommy Shannon on bass with Stevie Ray Vaughan. So Chris Layton and Tommy Shannon, they were the rhythm section called Double Trouble with Stevie Ray Vaughan. So this was a much younger Tommy Shannon at the time, because the release date on this one's 1969. And this, I want to say this was his third album. So it's actually really cool. It's 3 sides. And then on the 4th side, it's blank. So they came up with a bunch of songs and they didn't want to cut anything. And the record company said, okay, we'll do a 3 sides type thing. So yeah, I've never seen that before in a double album, but it's just because they wanted to include all these. And side 3 actually is really good. I Love Everybody, Hustle Down in Texas, and then I Love Everybody is rounded off with I Hate Everybody, right? Memory Pain is another good one on this. So side 2 is more traditional. They do a cover of Johnny B. Good, and they also do a cover of Highway 61 Revisited. That's the Bob Dylan song right there. And they do a cool version of that. So that's his second winner, Johnny Winter. I love it. He kind of sheds his original blues root, and you can see him heading more into a rock and roll direction on this album. Just really solid, really excellent guitar player. All right, what do we got here? Dave Mason. So back to JT's Record Room. I was commenting on one of his videos, and I was saying how in love with Traffic I've always been. Anything Steve Winwood does, I have to have it, and I had including all the Traffic stuff. And he's like, you got to get some Dave Mason. So of course Dave Mason played guitar, and he was in Traffic for the first album, I want to say. And then he left to do this, and this is called Alone Together. This is his solo debut. So yeah, what's on here? It's mostly originals. It's all originals. What am I saying? Look at You, Look at Me. He's just got all these personnel on here. So Delaney and Bonnie Bramlett, of course, Delaney and Bonnie, they're on this. Leon Russell plays on this. Jim Keltner's on this. And Jim Capaldi from Traffic. So you can see he gets a credit right here. And there's the song, Look at You. Look at You, Look at Me right there. You can see the credit there for Jim Capaldi. Probably my favorite song on this album. Well, Only You and I Know was a big single, Dave Mason single. And yeah, should have took more than you gave, rounding out side 1. That I would say, undoubtedly, it sounds like a Traffic song, and that's why I really like it. There he is there. Dave Mason. So yeah, tie in here again, as I said, Delaney and Bonnie Bramlett. This is the Legendary Live album. I'm just throwing this. I already had this, so I'm just throwing this in the context of that Dave Mason album. So this was when they toured in England, and it was just a who's who on here, right? Of course, Delaney and Bonnie Bramlett both. Eric Clapton, Bobby Whitlock, and of course you got Rita Coolidge singing vocals on this as well. There's Rita right there. So yeah, just that. I thought I'd mention that. Speaking of Rita, I did pick this one up a couple weeks ago. I've got a few Rita Coolidge albums. I just love her. This was after a divorce with Chris Christopherson, though she does do a Chris Christopherson tune on here called Who's to Bless and Who's to Blame. That is an excellent song. Look that up. Who's to Bless and Who's to Blame. And Higher, she does a version of that on here that's good. We're All Alone is a really nice ballad. Borders a bit on yacht rock, but it's a really beautiful song. And of course Words, which is a Brothers Gibb composition she does on here. And Brothers Gibb, of course, I'm referring to the Bee Gees. So there's the lovely Rita right there. Another headshot right there. The glare there. So that's Rita Coolidge, and the name of that album, Anytime, Anywhere. And that came out, what's the year on this one? 1978, 79, something like that. Yeah, and there it is right there. So see the Bee Gees. And that song I mentioned there, Words, she does a cover of that. And they're on the back, the guys. I just thought I'd mention that as a credit to the Brothers Gibb. All right. Got this one too in August, and this is the Final Jam album. It's it's a compilation of live cuts from a variety of venues, small and large. I want to say between 1978 and 1982 when this was released. Of course, yeah, there it is, 1982 on Polydor. And it's called Dig the New Breed. As you can see here, recorded live. Really good sound engineering on this. I mean, this is really great. Apparently this is very rare in the United States to find this. I posted it on Facebook, and a friend of mine who lived in the UK, he's like, wow, where'd you get that? You know, that's rare, as I said, but I got lucky. And again, got this for $4 or $5, and it's in terrific condition. There's some liner notes on the back, and you can see there's Paul Weller's signature right there, and there's Paul up in the top. So they're all here. You got In the City, All Mod Cons, Set the House Ablaze. That's Entertainment, of course, one of their biggest songs. That's included on here. On the inside here. Yeah, there's just some shots of the band. There's Paul Weller right there. Yeah, and then there's shots of them at different venues. So it says backstage at the Roxy. Here they are in the USA somewhere. It just says USA in 79. Backstage in glamorous Galway. Galway, that's in Ireland. So yeah, that's the Jam. Dig the New Breed. They were the new breed at the time. That was before Paul Weller ventured off and formed the Style Council, of course. So here, a little classic country for you. You'll check that cover out, right? This is Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn. This was their second duet album together in 1971. Yeah, he just looks, this is just such a wild cover. We just had a blue moon the other night, actually. Well, we all did, right? Wherever you were in the world. So it's just really bizarre looking, right? So he looks like some 80s television evangelist, and she looks like one of his disciples. Really far out. Just look at that, right? Even if I could have hair again, I really don't think I'd want that. But you know, maybe I have to think deeper about that. Maybe I would. I don't know. And on the back, looking a little more casual here. He's not wearing a tie, and he's got some kind of cool shirt from the Ben Rankins collection. It looks like that's a nice looking shirt. And there she is looking up at Conway. Some great moments on this one. Of course, the title track called "Lead Me On." When I turn off my lights, your memory turns me on. Is that a great song title or what? And Easy Lovin', that's another really good one on this. And Backstreet Affair. They're always singing about having an affair, yet these two were married to different people, and this is not like a George Jones and Tammy Wynette situation. They were never really never romantically involved. And yeah, of course, this is on MCA. Not much to see here, but yeah, geez, I love that cover art. And just, just for giggles, this was the album that came right before it. This was their first, and it's called We Only Make Believe. She's Loretta rocking that pantsuit, if you will. So yeah, We Only Make Believe. So that was the one that came right before that. But I already had that, of course. And I did not have this, though, and I got this in August as well. So Tony Bennett passed recently, and I have a few Tony Bennett albums. I'm a lounge lizard at heart, and I love it. I like my Frank Sinatra, and I like Tony Bennett. So this is probably the fourth or fifth Tony Bennett album I have, and I just always really never grow tired of the song, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. It's just a beautiful song. 3 Minutes of Heaven right there. So this is a nice clean copy in mono on the Columbia label right there. Oh, you can see again on the front. So yeah, it's of course the title track. Have I Told You Lately? I'm Always Chasing Rainbows too. And of course he rounds it out with The Best Is Yet to Come. And this one was from 1962. And again, he left his heart in San Francisco, and that's Tony Bennett. Love it, love it. For a couple of bucks, I'll get a lot of enjoyment out of that one. So back to some singer-songwriter. We're swinging into the 70s again. Rounding out the 70s here in 1979 with John David Souther, otherwise known as J.D. Souther, friend of Glenn Frey. There's a band he did. Him and Glenn Frey were actually roommates. They shared an apartment, I want to say down in San Diego, as the story goes. Might have been L.A., but they collaborated and wrote songs together. And they had some band called something in Penny Whistle. I can't think of it. Long something, and maybe someone could chime in the comments. Maybe JT, I know you'll know what that is. I'd like to find that album too, because as I was looking up some J.D. Souther stuff. But I already had a couple of J.D. Souther. I really like it. So oddly, my first introduction to this guy was at this time. I would have been 11 years old, and one of those KTEL, it would be like top 40 hits or whatever. Well, the single on here he opens this up with is a song called You're Only Lonely. There's a really good live version he does at Farm Aid that Willie Nelson kind of it was kind of like Live Aid, but more to help struggling farmers in the 80s in the United States. And he does a really good live version of that if you look up J.D. Souther live at Farm Aid. And the second song in this is also really good, If You Don't Want My Love, White Rhythm and Blues, Till the Bars Burn Down. I mean, this is, I don't like to use the term yacht rock, but this in some ways is, but I really dig it. I think he was a good singer. And he's still around, still alive, and still performing. So that's You're Only Lonely from 1979. And this was his second album from 1976. I already had that. That's called Black Rose. And there's his debut right there. I want to say that one's, 1972. And of course, he was one of the first artists signed by David Geffen right there on the Asylum label. A lot of singer-songwriters on that label, including Jackson Browne, friends of David Geffen right there. So that's the J.D. Souther self-titled debut. I just thought I'd throw those in for fun. I was glad to find this. Love me some blues, right? So this is Fabulous Thunderbirds from Austin, Texas, featuring the great Jimmy Vaughn, as I mentioned before, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Of course, that's his brother. And this is a foursome right here. On lead vocals, what's the guy's name? Kim Wilson. This guy right here plays harmonica and sings. Really killer. This guy, Keith Ferguson, on bass. And Mike Buck on drums. They kicked him to the curb, or he left. I'll talk about that in a minute. This was their debut, self-titled. Apparently girls go wild for it. I've been to a few blues shows. You don't meet a lot of women at blues shows, but maybe they do go wild for it. So that's the Fabulous Thunderbirds. Their debut from, what year was this one? I don't even know the year on this. 1979. Oh yeah, so other interesting, they were on this label, Tacoma. I've never seen that. That's an indie label. I don't know if it was based in Austin, Texas. But yeah, they were on that label. I've never seen that label before. Again, if anybody knows that label, again, Tacoma, yeah, chime in the comments and let me know. I've never seen it before, but this super clean copy. It plays like it's brand new. And if you like, you know, traditional, it's nothing crazy. Barroom blues, a la George Thorogood, this would be in your wheelhouse. It's really great. That's their debut, and this was their fourth album. Came out a few years later. What's the year on this one? I'm not sure the year on this one. No, 1982, T-Bird Rhythm, and actually this one was produced by Nick Lowe. So slightly different sound on this one. But yeah, like I said, there's a new drummer on this one, some guy named Fran Christina. There they are all on the front in their Thunderbird and their Ford Thunderbird. And this is a promo copy. So this is almost like a brochure if you're buying a Thunderbird, because it's got all the features pointed out here. So, you know, you've got a deluxe antenna right there as opposed to a standard antenna. That's deluxe. I think that must mean that you start the ignition, the antenna pops up, shut off the car, antenna goes down, right? Of course, I'm not a mechanical engineer. I'm guessing, but a deluxe antenna, I would expect it's going to do more than a standard antenna, right? So anyway, and it's got power seats, and it's also got seat belts. Love it. So anyway, that's another good one. Yeah, so a couple of the songs on here I should mention. Can't Tear It Up Enough. Diddy Wad Diddy's cool. Neighbor, Tend to Your Business is good. And You're Humbugging Me. That's probably my favorite on this one right there. You're Humbugging Me. Yeah, again, standard barroom blues. Really good. All right. Singer-songwriter again, Emmylou. You know, I'm a big fan of her. I've pretty much covered the 70s with Emmylou Harris at this point. This one released, this is her fifth from 1978, Quarter Moon in a 10-Cent Town. Yeah, so you got of course her band, the usual characters are on here, the Hot Band playing on here. So with Rodney Crowell, of course, he was still in the Hot Band. He eventually left to do his own thing. So what is the Rodney Crowell song? Oh, that's on the other one I'm going to show. So there's actually a good one on here written by Guy Clark's wife called Easy From Now On that kicks this off. That's really good. If you don't know who Guy Clark is, you know, he's from Texas. Really, really excellent singer-songwriter, country. Call him an outlaw country guy if you want. But his wife Susanna was also a songwriter, and she wrote that song, Easy From Now On, and that's a really good track on this one. Quarter Moon in a 10-Cent Town. That's Emmylou Harris. And here's another Emmylou right here. This is her 11th, so this was 6 albums later in 1983. Again, still with the Hot Band on here. So yeah, Driving Wheel, Pledge of My Love, Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, Like an Old-Fashioned Waltz. Really, really good stuff here. So that's Emmylou Harris right there. What was that other? There was a Rodney Crowell tune. No. Dolly Parton song here called To Daddy. That's another really good one too. She does a cover of. I thought I should mention that. And lastly, Slow Hand. Nothing fancy here. This is his typical mid-80s output in 1986. Very polished. But again, I only paid a few bucks for this copy, and it's pretty much mint, other than someone wrote on the back here and penned their name. I guess someone named Brown on this album. Yeah, it's just called August. It's in the way that you use it. That was in that movie, The Color of Money, with Paul Newman and Tom Cruise. And then there's a duet on here called Tearing Us Apart, and that features the late, great Tina Turner singing on there with him. But oddly, yeah, there's no photo of Tina on the inside. Just a couple of the other guys in the band, and there's Eric right there. So yeah, I'm pretty much a fan of anything Slow Hand. That's Eric Clapton. So that's going to round out the video of August Finds. I hope you like that. A lot of good listening there. I've listened to all of these through, a couple of them a couple of times. So yeah, the only dud in the bunch for me so far was that Manfred Mann album. But again, I'll try it again and decide if I'm going to keep it. So anyway, whatever you're doing this long weekend, I think there's a couple of contests floating around. So I'm going to do some YouTube surfing over the weekend. Maybe I'll explore entering another contest just for something to do, because we're really, like I said, not traveling. we're just staying around the home base here. So anyway, again, have a good weekend, whatever you're doing, and I'll see you next time.